Everybody. So hopefully you got to tune in last month and learned about the new secure router platform. Couple things to note there. By the way, Jamie Hughes, I'm a networking solutions architect, joined by James Cox, who's a security solutions architect or solutions engineer, and we're gonna tag team a little bit today. Going to go through the platform as it stands today from a kind of a little bit of history and a little bit of where we're going. And then James is going to jump into how we sort of level up security with the secure router platform. So like I said, hopefully you tuned in last week and learned about the platform, the hardware, the new boxes, all the speeds and feeds that you need to know about those boxes. Today, like I said, we're going to sort of talk about a little bit more holistic SD-WAN approach to using these boxes. How do we use these boxes to secure the edge of our network and enable our connectivity between locations, between branches and services, between branches and data centers, cloud, employees, all that stuff, right? And I think that the secure router is Cisco's platform moving forward to make all of this happen, right? It's the thing that's going to sit at the edge of the network. It can do all kinds of security type functionality, as well as providing the smarts to route traffic across any transport that you deem necessary. Any sort of legacy transport, MPLS, direct connects to cloud providers, as well as building overlays and SD-WAN fabrics over top of that. I like to show this slide just because it's a very it's very broad, but very it shows everything that you might see in a network, and where SD-WAN comes into play, right? Effectively, we have our branch on the left there, sort of the usual suspects. You have your employees, your guests, your contractors, different types of users at the branch. All of those different types of users need to have connectivity to everything that the enterprise requires, right? Whether it's again in the cloud or on the internet or in private data centers, and the secure router at the edge of that branch really becomes that demarcation point. From there, we sort of, the sky's the limit. We can connect to using whatever services we need to get access to what we need to do on a daily basis in a secure fashion, right? So that nice circle in the middle there, being the internet, all of the things that WebEx or Salesforce or O365 or even things like YouTube and whatnot, we all need to get to that, and then easily access that content from the branch, right, directly. We don't need to go through a data center. We don't need to go through any additional security stack in a data center. We just want to make sure that everybody users at the branch have access to that in an efficient manner. However, if we do need to get to services at an HQ or in a data center, right, we'll build our secure tunnels across the internet or other transports to get there. And then as far as security is concerned, Cisco has the biggest threat intelligence organization in the world, in Talos, outside of the government, right? So we can always leverage that as well, and that's what James is going to talk about, and how we sort of level up our security at the branch using our cloud security platforms. But that's not to sort of minimize the amount of services that we run locally at a branch too, right? So that router is our first line of defense to security at the branch. But then SD-WAN ultimately becomes our normalizer, right? So it allows us to send traffic anywhere out of that box to any service that we need to on the internet, and like I said, anywhere in the enterprise as well, and pick the most efficient ways to do that. So a little bit on the hardware. I promise I won't spend too much time on slides. But the Cisco 8000 series router is that edge device now. Notice it's not a Catalyst 8000 series router; it's a Cisco 8000 series router, secure router. In that has the additional processing capabilities so that we can make sure that going forward we're post-quantum secure, so we can encrypt everything on the wire and not worry about post decryption later. We can run locally next-gen firewalls, obviously connection up to our cloud security platform, as well as integrations to provide assurance to our users at the branch and across the enterprise, with things like Thousand Eyes being able to actually test our connection across our SD-WAN tunnels, as well as our paths across the internet. And then as far as management's concerned, I think none of this has any value without being able to see everything in one place, right? So whether you plan to manage these routers on-prem or in the cloud, we're making that decision easy for you, and you can kind of choose your own destiny there. So as far as networking as a whole at Cisco, just a little bit of a level set here too. Common hardware platforms are where it's at. Common licensing is where it's at. And then choosing how you want to consume it and manage it is up to you now, right? So we have unified hardware, the C8000 series hardware. We have unified licensing. You buy the hardware, you buy the licensing, you choose how you want to consume it. And then unified support is included in those licensing as well, right? So there's no additional, there's nothing additional that you have to purchase or consume to get support on your solution. And then the platform is your choice. Depending on the application, depending on the architecture, there's a lot that goes into that, but that makes that decision a little easier.
For folks that have been around Cisco for a long time, specifically what Jamie's referencing there is the SmartNet. So SmartNet is being folded into this unified license, and it makes it easier to kind of manage your licensing and your support all together.
Exactly. And then from a deployment mode perspective, this is going to sort of shift a little bit towards cloud, just because that seems to be, at least in my experience, what a lot of customers are looking for. Is an easy button, no longer the need to deploy, on-prem hardware for management, multiple tools for management, all these other things that historically we've had to do to manage our infrastructure and the edge of our network. If we bring everything to the cloud, then it becomes so much easier for everybody, right? And again, singular license. All you do is bring that device into the cloud, and now you have full control over that device, as well as visibility into that device, but everything else in your network as well, which we'll take a look at in a minute.
And you see that this is kind of similar to the way that the switching platform is. In case you missed that cloud mode versus device mode, unified hardware, unified license, you kind of choose that direction. Yep.
Yeah, and there's a couple. Well, so historically we've had our cloud platform Meraki, right? The device at the edge of that network has always been the MX appliance, and then that's always been only cloud managed, right? Now we have this common hardware platform, the C8000 series secure routers. We can choose how we want to do that, right? If I want to have my device and I want to manage it using the CLI, and I'm really comfortable that way, I can do that. But I can also bring that into dashboard, just like we can with the Catalyst 9000 switches and the C9350 smart switches. We can bring those into dashboard now for the visibility, right? The visibility and ease of some management, right? So things like firmware updates, things along those lines that may have been a task in the past, especially if I was just managing devices through the CLI. That gives us the ability to do those things in a more centralized place. So as far as the cloud managed devices specifically, again, we've historically had the MXs, and now we're introducing the C8K into the lineup. So you can see sort of where they fit if you've been around Meraki for a while. But again, we have a box for pretty much every solution, as well as some things we didn't have before. So everything from the C8111, which is actually available now. I have one sitting over here. I grab it if I needed to walk away from the screen, but it's a small form factor box, all the way up to the 8455, which is now the bigger, badder box to what was the MX, or what is the MX450, right? So in certain situations where we need to scale above and beyond where we could before, we have that 8455. All right. So let's see. There we are. So as far as platforms are concerned, if you've seen Dashboard, this looks really familiar. This is probably nothing new. This happens to be an MX450, but at this point it could be any of the C8000 series routers, right? And we're introducing some things into the platform that you may not have seen before. But as far as SD-WAN is concerned, which is kind of what we want to focus on here at the moment, the beauty of SD-WAN is to be able to build tunnels across multiple transports or multiple internet connections and be able to shift traffic appropriately, but also make sure that the traffic that we're passing across those links, whether it ends up DIA-ing to the internet or going across an SD-WAN link, is going across the most efficient link for that type of traffic, right? And we do that in a number of different ways, and we can assure that in a number of different ways too. So in this case, we have an MX450 here. This happens to be running our corporate network in our San Francisco office, and we have 2 internet connections available to us here. One's a 10 gig internet connection, one's a 1 gig internet connection. But the nice thing about SD-WAN is we can use those equally, right? We can choose, I want to load balance across those links as best I can. Let's proportionally send the appropriate amount of traffic over a 10 gig link versus a 1 gig link, right? So we're not sitting there with an active passive situation waiting for a link to fail before we start using another one. So we can also see here another one of those nice assurance pieces. I'm looking at this MX, and this will be an alert that shows up here as well, in Dashboard. So again, this comes back to that holistic view of my network, right? I have an alert that shows up here. It says application performance degradation. So we're actually seeing this from the point of view of this branch, right? Because we're running this at the edge of our network, because we know 0365 is an application that's important to us. We're actually looking at that traffic and determining whether we're seeing any issues or performance issues with it. So we're getting that alert here. We didn't have to do anything except tell it we use 0365. And in fact, what we're going to do is we're actually going to pop out to ThousandEyes here, which will actually show us that test specifically, exactly what's going on with that particular type of traffic, and see where in the path or what exactly is causing that issue, right? So because of the integration we have between the MX and ThousandEyes, we're getting this information about the performance of a particular application that's really important to us, right? And we can even go as far as seeing the path of this traffic across the network, which is not going to show it to me here. There we go. Let's go back to one more page before this. So we can actually see over time our performance of the application. Here's where we're actually seeing the issue right now. And we're getting a specific issue of DNS timing out. So we can actually be pretty specific about what's going on with that with the error in that traffic. And then as far as SD-WAN is concerned, again, we want to be able to shift traffic appropriately depending on metrics that we have, and we do that through SD-WAN policy. So if we bring up SD-WAN on these sites, which is a couple of clicks through the dashboard in this case, we can set policy on how we want certain types of traffic to behave if we have issues across particular links. So we're checking each link for loss latency jitter. If we have issues across a particular link, let's move the traffic to another link that's more appropriate for that type of traffic. In this case, we're looking for things like VoIP traffic, MOS score 3.5 or better. If we fall below these thresholds, we'll move the traffic to a different link that's not seeing those issues, right? And then as far as the edge of our network is concerned, right, we have this ability to create SD-WAN connectivity between locations for internal services, but then we also want to be able to enable external services, right? And we do that, and we want to be able to protect that traffic too. So we have some inbuilt capabilities on the MXs. We run Snort v3 on the MXs or the CAK routers, and we can run advanced malware protection. We can run IPS IDS. We don't have it enabled here at the moment, but we can run it locally so that we have east-west traffic visibility and look at the traffic, analyze that traffic from east-west, VLAN to VLAN type traffic, as well as that traffic egressing to the internet. But then the next level of that is being able to send any additional traffic up to our SASE provider, secure access, our internet, cloud-based internet security platform. So that's what James is going to talk about next. But as far as the connectivity between Dashboard and those services, that actually ends up being a very easy integration. It can be as easy as coming up to, and this says Secure Connect here, but we're going to have a very similar integration for secure access. We come up and add our sites to the network that builds tunnels from our branch location up to secure access, and that's all we have to do there. We can also, if we're not going to use the auto VPN functionality in dashboard, if we're running, traditional Cisco SD-WAN, we can do that as well using IPsec or the included on ramps. So anyway, Josh and Eric, did you have anything that you wanted to cover or that I didn't talk about before we switch over to SASE?
Can you scroll down a little bit just to like make note of those
On here?
categories in the bottom? Yeah. On the traffic, the trusted
there you go.
traffic exclusions,
Mhm.
those come really important. And the reason why I want to say that is because a lot of times you don't just go straight into SD-WAN. Some people still have like most of the internet going to like one HQ or something. So this is like one of those ways where you don't want to have to inspect everything, that you can kind of trust that traffic so that it comes in. And I know that's a huge one for like software updates. That's really what I'm picking on here. And business critical applications, since you already have those like relationships with those vendors and everything, you can kind of trust that traffic in here so that it takes a little bit of ease off as far as like inspecting traffic.
Yeah, and that's a good call out. So what this does for us here is it actually takes this traffic and doesn't send it through our onboard IPS IDS engine, right? So to Eric's point, if we have a trusted provider, O365 or some sort of conferencing services, right? Software updates are a really good example. There's really no reason to inspect that traffic because we assume it's coming from a trusted source. So we won't inspect that here. However, if we can do the same thing for traffic we're sending up to secure access or a cloud security platform as well, right? We may not want to send updates, secure software updates, or conferencing up and add that level of delay or extra hops to get to those services. We can exclude those types of services as well.
And trusted IP and address and subnets for like personal apps if you're still running them internally. Just a consideration.
Yep. Definitely.
That's all I have.
Cool.
So Jamie, just to recap though. So I mean, I know we were talking about secure router, but based on everything that all the tap sessions we've had, we can move wireless, switching, and now routing to have it all managed under dashboard and get the visibility, management, all that good stuff without having to run in traditional Meraki mode.
Yeah, and I think bringing it in under one platform is the key call out there, right? Because we get the ability to see client level connectivity all the way up through egress to the internet and beyond, right? So application performance for individual clients, or even just individual clients' performance between their laptop and an access point and a switch, and then ultimately out to the internet, right? So everything under one purview.
Yeah, pretty much in dashboard, you're going all the way to the WAN connection.
Yep.
And right at that WAN connection to the handoff is kind of where James will pick it up.
Yep. Yeah. So we're at this point we're egressing to the internet and allowing our users access to services out there in the wild west of the internet. James?
Perfect.
Great handoff there, Jamie.
Try.
Yeah, we're definitely going to be talking about the wild west of the internet here. So for those on the call that don't know me, I am James Cox. I'm a security SE here covering the Philadelphia select territory. Tim Glenn also covers some of the accounts, so you may know him from your account team as well. Wanted to do just a quick kind of high level overview around secure access, and then we're going to start looking at how we can integrate the SD-WAN side of things into secure access and create uniform policy for our DIA traffic, get visibility and inspection on that DIA traffic, as well as the ability for us to create policy for remote users or remote branch sites to access resources securely that may live in our data center, maybe a SaaS offering, may live in the public AWS Azure type cloud space. And if you've ever seen us present these style topics around secure access, we always talk about a challenge. And the challenge is in today's landscape is that we have a multitude of ways that our end users or our remote sites are connecting back to our secured resources. Again, physical data centers, SaaS providers, and such. And generally speaking, when we do these kind of conversations, we're talking about the two personas of remote users and a third-party contractor. Today, we're really going to deep dive into the office side or the branch side of things. All of our policy, all of our security, from a visibility perspective, of understanding identity, this all applies to all three use cases, but our setup is a little bit different. And again, we're here to try to protect the resources in your data centers or in your clouds from not from really malicious, but making sure that we understand who these folks are on the network and granting them the granular access they need without saying, "Hey, here's everything inside the back end of the network." Um, so a couple key terms we're gonna work through here. Secure access at its kind of core and its heart is the umbrella platform, right? It's there for our DNS layer security. But what we've done is we've evolved that platform into a multifaceted remote access tool. So it's still our DNS security, but now we've layered in remote access VPN and this kind of newer terminology around zero trust network access, where we don't need full blown tunnels to create connections between end users or locations to our private applications. And I think this doesn't get talked about too much from like an SD-WAN perspective, but this is a key mechanism to reduce kind of the threat landscape of who can talk to what. So I'm creating single point tunnels between our end users or our locations to our resources. So again, I'm not giving them keys of the kingdom to get into the back end of our network. Um, but through this, we also layer in all of our traditional MFA capabilities, whether it's from Duo or from Microsoft or Okta. It's an open platform from that perspective. We can do posture checks to see if the endpoints are valid for your organization, if they're up to date from a software perspective. And then we can start applying firewall rules that say, hey, this application should only operate on 443. Yes, it has, SSH and SMB behind in the back end, but our end users don't need to do that. So I'm only going to allow them to hit the 443 port. And then as that traffic passes through, we apply IPS and IDS rules, just as Jamie called out from the Meraki or the dashboard side of things. I'm applying this from a cloud perspective. And then if we go into deep dive conversations around DLP and remote browser isolation, these are all pieces of the secure access puzzle that we can enable or disable on a per use case basis. And I'm just going to build through this. When we talk about our integrations and our improvements and our advancements from secure access into the Catalyst SD-WAN world and into the Meraki world, there's a couple things that we're trying to achieve here, right? So we're sharing the VPN ID that is coming from our SD-WAN environment into secure access. So we're building context, we're building visibility, but more so, I'm now building consistent policy. So when I have policies that are defined in my SD-WAN environment, I can enforce those from a secure access perspective, whether we're leaving the network or I'm a remote user coming in and I need to get access to something in the SD-WAN environment that's not part of our traditional core data center aspect. And this can be applied to things that are, from a user perspective, from an IoT perspective, devices, and again, services that are on the back end of your network. And the key thing is here is that we're maintaining segmentation, right? We're not having to redefine it. We're not having to re-engineer it. We're using things that the platforms already know about to enforce this. So again, sharing VPN ID. And secondly, we have full integration into ICE. So if you guys are consuming SGTs throughout your environment, whether again that's your physical locations or even out into the SD-WAN, we can read those SGTs that have been applied to users or devices in secure access. We can also apply them to users that are coming in from a remote access VPN perspective. And again, giving me a streamlined, consistent policy between the SD-WAN and secure access, now empowered by ICE. So I'm leveraging all the things that you guys are hopefully using today in your environments without having to re-engineer the wheel. And then we do want to talk about really quick what what the branch style connectivity looks like. Jamie mentioned a couple minutes ago that from a kind of traditional or a non-Cisco perspective, the secure access platform supports IPsec. So I can create tunnels between anything that supports IPsec. So if we need to talk about Palos or checkpoints or out to AWS or Azure, not a problem. Fully supported. We handle BGP, we handle EMCP for scaling. But we get some easy buttons when we start talking about Catalyst SD-WAN and the Meraki, the traditional Meraki environment. We now support auto VPN in the secure access platform, and we're going to demo that here in a couple seconds. And that enables me to not have to worry about doing IPsec tunnels or worrying about tunnel failover. Auto VPN will handle all of that. And between the two platforms, this is just APIs we're sharing and a couple checkboxes. So really easy and simple to set up.
I think the tunnel DNR is a huge one too. Like I feel like a lot of people run into spaces where they're doing IPsec tunnel to an app or to a location, but then they have to ensure that they have the metrics all like calculated and everything, and just like allowing auto VPN to kind of handle that, especially when you're so dispersed.
Yeah.
I think that's a huge call out.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about your BGP routes at that point or routing metrics. Auto VPN is a pretty new add-on. I say add-on, but it's available to the entire platform. But it's a newer offering that we have inside of the secure access platform because of Meraki demand. So our Meraki customers pushed us to integrate that.
So yes,
lastly,
we do listen.
what's that?
So yes, we do listen.
Yes, we do listen. We absolutely
Yeah.
do. And lastly, just a quick plug. Because Jamie did actually have part of this showing in his dashboard, the secure access platform is 100% integrated into the Thousand Eyes platform. So as we start building visibility from our MXs, I'm now pulling that information into Thousand Eyes in the secure access dashboards, giving me a streamlined view of where we're having problems. So his example was a DNS problem. Mine would probably be more of an ISP style connectivity problem that I'd be presenting. But we would get all those details in the cross launch if needed into a full-blown Thousand Eyes platform. So what does this look like in the real world? And Jamie has a much better window sharing than I do. So I need to stop this for a second and reshare as Chrome. And just make sure this pops up. Okay. So Jamie has a great flashy dashboard with a ton of stuff in it. I just have one MX device in my Meraki dashboard, right? I don't have all the cameras and all that kind of stuff to share, unfortunately. But from a integration perspective, there's a couple key quick things we have to accomplish. So if we want to start looking at bringing our MXs or our secure routers into secure access, we actually have to go into the early access tab here really quick. And as we scroll down, there is a secure access integration. When we check this off, I now get this SASE integration that pops up here, and we'll see in a second the flip side of that is true. I get a Meraki icon in my secure access. All I do is I share my integrations here. I create API hooks from secure access over into the Meraki dashboard. Once this is all connected up, I now get my ability to see my sites. So for me, this is just one device, just an MX. I don't know what this is, 67. Yeah, 67. That is now connected into my secure access environment. The tunnels have been created. Right now, I only have one region specified just because of where my secure access sits. But I have two tunnels reaching out from this Meraki device to the secure access platform, as well as the ability to help steer traffic. So I can come in here and say, from an internet perspective, do I want secure access to be the default route where everything goes through here? Or do I want to disable that where I'm only sending traffic that is of interest to my data center or to my other sites inside of SD-WAN? For this example, from a telemetry perspective, I'm routing all my traffic from my MX up to secure access. There's a couple other quick tweaks that we can do in here. From a site-to-site perspective, we do need to enable the networks that we want to send up to secure access. These would be the local MX or secure router networks that we're protecting. So I can pick and choose, right? We can send up our corporate stuff, but peel off our local guest Wi-Fi. And then from here, that's really all I have to do here. But this is where the kind of the magic starts, right? We've created the connectivity, and I have purposefully added some errors into my console here just to show that we are managing we are monitoring network tunnels, and we are looking at overall connectivity of the platform. Generally, all this would be green. But again, I actually now get a cross launch from my secure access platform over to my Meraki dashboard itself, and I now get to actually see from a network connectivity perspective. Again, there's going to be a lot of things that are going to be popping up on the screen here because I'm talking a large platform and we're really looking at one use case. I now actually get to see that here's my Meraki devices, right? Or my Meraki device itself that I'm integrating into the console. I'll give stats and statistics because I'm doing this live with only 3 test machines. There's probably not going to be a lot of traffic that we see across here. But I would get stats and statistics saying, hey, these tunnels are being utilized. And then, kind of the key piece of this to talk about is great. We've added connectivity. I'm steering traffic up, but kind of like what next, right? We have everything built. Inside of secure access, we talk about a couple different categories of things. We talk about internet sites, as in, direct internet access. We talk about private resources that would be a server or a group of servers inside of the data center. We define them by IP address. I can actually pull this up. We define these by IP address as well as what ports and protocols are allowed. So in this particular one, which I'll show in a couple minutes, this is just a web server I run inside my home lab. I allow HTTP and HTTPS to it as well as SSH. And I'm only specifying, I'm always specifying branch connectivity as well as allowing zero trust connectivity. And for the example, we'll actually be doing this from a zero trust perspective. But from a branch perspective, I'm able to connect through the SD-WAN fabric through secure access to actually reach that server or that service. So again, I can limit down the applications I want to get to and only allow the ports and protocols that are needed for that application to be utilized. And if we take that one step further, when we talk about policy, I'll be able to limit down users or groups of users based on Active Directory or endpoints themselves to these individual resources. So again, it's very granular from a configuration and a policy perspective. And what this looks like from a policy stance, for those that have used Umbrella in the past, the Umbrella platform had multiple policies inside of it. The secure access policy is one policy, and I can enable or disable different styles of checks and balances, whether it's from a web perspective or a VPN perspective or a SD-WAN perspective, inside of one particular rule. And that's kind of what I've predefined inside of here. So right off the bat, this bottom one, and we'll see this in an example, this is a internet block. So this is coming from my Meraki device. I've defined my Meraki appliance in my from perspective. And I've also come in here and I've added in gambling sites from an Umbrella categorization perspective. And anytime that the secure access platform sees this traffic from my MX going to gambling, doesn't matter anything beyond that, it's going to block it, right? And I'm going to present that user back with a block page saying, hey, you cannot get here. And I also get a couple other options, right? We can talk about just general allow rules, right? We want to allow something no matter what from a certain branch location, independent of other rules inside the policy. Our warn pages are, hey, March Madness is going on. Maybe you shouldn't be on ESPN at noon, right? We're going to allow it, but here's a warning message. And then lastly, isolate. This is remote browser isolation. So I need to access LinkedIn, but I don't want to actually interact with any of the content that's up there, PDFs, Word docs, etc. I will present that to the user in a Kubernetes version of their own browser. And if the attachment were to be malicious and detonate, we would actually only be detonating inside of the remote browser and not the local machine. So kind of reducing blast radius and allowing users to get to semi-okay sites for certain use cases, but also, again, protecting those endpoints.
Hey, James, I have a question on the WARN use case you talked about there. So a lot of my customers are currently focused on trying to not only understand which, I'll call them rogue AIs might be in use in the environment, but also to sort of push their users to approved AI platforms. Is that something that WARN capability might be able to help out with, or?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a great question. So, again, a lot of what I'm talking about today is around the SD-WAN integration, but from a secure access perspective, from looking at the internet traffic itself, we can use these controls here to limit or restrict who can get to what AI style applications, or actually go very granular and say, hey, we pay for ChatGPT as an organization. Here's our tenant, and let's start steering everyone that tries to go to ChatGPT to our tenant. So yeah, we can use a warn page here, and I can come into these come into these categorizations and find. Let's just search for it. So you'll first quickly see that we have multiple categorizations for this. We have application categories that define. Yeah, there's a lot of them. That's the total categorization, right? I limited this down to what, half a dozen or so. So yeah, to Josh's point, I can come in here and say, hey, if we want our users to be using Copilot, right? Let's create a warning page for anything going to ChatGPT, and I can customize that page saying, hey, this is not really an acceptable program to be used on a network from a company or a corporate stance. Please, go to Copilot to do that, or go to Gemini from a Google perspective, right? All the major players are in here. When DeepSeek came to life last year, we had already identified it from a categorization perspective and had controls in the platform before the announcements were, and the kind of hype was already out there. So yeah, this is a great example of using the secure access platform to create AI controls. And again, we can do additional pieces inside of secure access around how I'm interacting with those AIs. If I'm putting up, if I'm uploading files into the AI tools, I can put DLP controls around what's going up there, or block that entirely.
James, we're doing that next month.
Hey, I gotta sell my own session next month.
I blame Josh.
I'm back next month, everyone.
Yes,
we'll do that again.
Back next month. We'll be doing more on securing AI and doing a deep dive on this conversation. So invite your security too.
So really quick, I've also come in here and I created a rule that is a private access rule. So this rule is coming from the MX, going to my web server over the MX via SD-WAN. So given that I've created that integration, secure access will see that as a request and say, hey, anything coming from this MX is allowed to that resource. And again, we predefine that with 443 and SSH. And again, I can write this rule in the opposite and say, hey, anything coming from this MX, we want to block going to the SD-WAN side of things. And then lastly, I have a rule up here. We didn't really touch too much on this idea of zero trust network access, but I needed to create it for this demo. So in this, it's the same style rule that's allowing me to the web server resource. But instead of selecting my network tunnel, I selected a bunch of endpoints that are in my environment. So I have a couple Windows devices. I've got a couple Mac OS devices that are pre-installed in my lab, and I want this policy to apply to them. So it allows it to come in from the outside world in a non-SD-WAN perspective, and allows it to actually get access to these servers. So quickly, I'm going to stop this share. Let's start. So really quick, this is a, let's see when it starts. Really quick, this is a VM that runs inside my home lab. It's being shared out through Proxmox, just from what you're looking at on the screen. What I've done is via that policy, what you also don't see at the very bottom of that was an allow, basically an allow any to the internet. So as an example, I went out to Wikipedia. Wikipedia loads, no problem. When I go out to this web server that I have, I'm allowed access to this. This is a internal IP address to me that is external to this host. So I'm coming through secure access. Technically, this web server lives behind the MX from a data center perspective. But this is just a quick little easy link for me to jump out into different things here at Cisco, right? So if I click on these, I'll be punted out to the internet. The data sheet pops up. As part of that policy that I had, I created a rule that said block gambling sites. So what I did is I went out to palottery.com, again, being relevant, and you want to go out there and check your Powerball numbers. And this site was blocked by secure access. This traffic, again, originated from behind the firewall. So it went out through the MX and was blocked at the secure access level there. But again, this can be utilized for all of our users throughout the organization, whether they're behind a SD-WAN environment or they are sitting out on the public internet and just doing their kind of remote work as is. And then lastly, I'm just going to jump back here real quick into secure access. One of the things we kind of want to highlight around the secure access platform is building visibility and building out context of what's happening. And again, for those that have used the umbrella platform, this is going to look very familiar from a request or a metrics perspective, but we've kind of supercharged it. Again, because the platform can look at multiple different styles of connections coming in and out, I now give the ability to filter down on that. So in this example here, this was me interacting with that machine, pulling up that data sheet. These are all web requests that are coming through. If I wanted to come in here and actually just look for the connections that are coming from my MX going back to the data center, this is the raw data that goes behind all that. And if we extrapolate this out and we talk about end users, when we talk about identities here, this is just the branch that is set up inside of there. But this would actually come up with the end username, right? This would say James Cox. This would give me my machine name and give me IP addresses of where I'm coming from, as well as the dispositions of, hey, this traffic was blocked, this traffic was allowed. In this example, right, this is all just allowed traffic itself. But I do want to take a pause here and just make sure that if there's any questions that popped up, we can address them. This is a lot to talk through in a couple minutes, but I think one of the key pieces of this is that, the secure access platform is here for more than just our RA VPN connections. This can be a tool that can be integrated into the Catalyst SD-WAN, the Meraki SD-WAN, the FTD lineup. What we didn't see is there's an FTD sitting in this environment as well. That can do the same style connectivity and capabilities. And again, kind of shifting some of the control points away from our data center when we have a user base that needs to get access to applications that may not live in the data center anymore, right? That server I presented could have lived in AWS or Azure. That could have been SAP. That could have been Workday hosted as a SaaS offering. So we can create that connectivity between those third parties and create it securely so that you're not exposing your company information on the public internet and still allowing your users to interact with it from a secure perspective. Was there any commentary in the comments, guys?
Oh, yeah. Any questions? I will say what's really cool, and I really thank James and Jamie, is we do a lot of this ourselves. So he had to set this all up by himself, get his own tenant going. And he joked earlier, it's like 8 hours of work for a 15-minute presentation. But I do want to say thank you.
Absolutely, guys.
It is a lot of work, it's a lot of effort. I hope this is helpful. If you ever have any other questions or any topics you want to cover, let us know. Like I said, we will be covering the securing AI starting next month. So please do invite people to that, and we will, if you want to be added to our program so that you're invited automatically, we do have the Trusted Advisor program, and that'll get you an automatic invite to the different sessions. If you want to send your team, us to add your team on there, send us the emails and we can get them added to it. It's a lot of information. We try to do more technical because a lot of times we don't get the opportunity to do it in person. A lot of times we see y'all, we go on site, there's a very specific topic and you don't want to be talking about something else. So we try to keep y'all ahead, let you know what other people are going through and what's working, what's not working, and what's actually like current in the PA region. This is y'all session.
Well said.
Yeah, great job, guys.
Everybody, thanks again for hopping on today. We will, if there's any questions afterwards, maybe you didn't want to throw them in the chat, feel free to email myself, Eric, James, Jamie directly. Also, feel free to just shoot a note to your account team. They can absolutely help you. Other than that, hopefully everybody has a great weekend, get some nice weather and some time outside. So,
Thanks, everybody.
thanks again.
Have a great one.